It's like, I'm having trouble with my digestion. Maybe it's food combining. I'm gonna try that. And usually we go to these things, whether it's extreme dieting or extreme dieting measures or supplements, or we go to a practitioner who does a surgery or medication. We go to these extremes because we are in need. So what is that need that you're seeing? That's the million
Mhm.
dollar question, I think. Like, what else could this be?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And that's where I'm kind of leery of practices like this as well, because it's not really affording space for nuance. And we're all unique individuals.
Mhm.
So, with when you aren't accounting for each person's microbiome and what their balance and how it could be imbalanced could look like, and that's what can create difficulty with digestion. I think it's almost encouraging people not to look deeper. Of if I just follow all these perfect rules, I'll have perfect digestion, and if something's wrong with me, then I don't need to know why, but we could have imbalance in the bugs that live in the gut.
Mhm.
You could have an imbalanced motility, which is influenced by so many things, nerves, muscles, circadian rhythm, and more. And then, you could also have a barrier that has been
Structure.
offset. So if your structure is off, you could struggle with digestion. Absolutely. Because, like I said, that's where enzymes are coming in. So it's so important if you are having digestive issues to really dive deep into those things that we know absolutely do affect digestion and not fall for some of these kind of quick fixes to say, well, if I just perfectly food combine, if I'm just perfectly forever low FODMAP, if I just cut out histamines for the rest of my entire life, if I just go keto, if I just, cut out, harder to digest proteins, I'm healed. Um,
Well, and you said it there. What we do know that are in foods, when we're talking about maybe food combining or where we can manipulate food, we call it medical nutrition therapy, which is kind of manipulating food in a way to best serve our patients. What we do know that's in food that a lot of people maybe aren't aware of is one, FODMAPs. I think our community here hears us talking about FODMAPs, and you're knowing more about FODMAPs, but those are fermentable oligo disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. These are aspects of food that your
they're
microbes
carbohydrates,
love to
fermentable
eat.
carbohydrates.
Yeah, fermentable carbohydrates. Your microbes love to eat and therefore ferment them.
Mhm.
There's histamines in food, right? There's sulfur, and there's
So
other
many salicylates and
salicylates, phytates, oxalate. We know these things are in foods, and we know people have issues with these things in food. But why is that? It goes back to what Dalia was saying, the population, the structure, and the function, right? Sometimes when your gut is already having these issues, you're then going to have issues with properly processing and digesting these foods.
Mhm.
We overall are kind of subscribing to of the mindset, just from looking at all of this and researching this and being in it and being with patients for as many years as we have, is like, hey, this path, which has evidence and really we see it working, and we are seeing these things and are able to manipulate some of these things like the histamines and FODMAPs and everything
Temporarily.
temporarily. This is showing a lot of promise, right? With the goal to reintroduce foods in abundance, with the goal to eat foods in diversity, in great quantity, or a healthy quantity that you feel good and listening to your body with. And the goal is to add more. And it doesn't really come with the caveat of like, except for fruit and beans,
Mhm.
except for only melon separate, except for, so
And guys,
yeah,
I gotta keep it real. It's not the food, it's the
yeah,
gut. Because, with a few exceptions, right? You don't wanna be eating food that has food poisoning, right? You don't wanna be eating
right.
spoiled food. You don't wanna be eating food that is known to cause harm, like, for example, raw kidney beans, right?
Yeah, we're not saying.
We're not saying eat inedible foods, but if it's an edible food, you should be able to eat, digest, and absorb nutrients from it no matter what you're pairing it with.